Hello everyone, it is Shauna, your tax goddess. Thought it was important that we did a Facebook Live today, which it's been a long time since we did Facebook Live, but obviously there's a lot of stuff going on. And you're gonna notice me kind of jumping around, my eyes kind of jumping around because I am looking at different data for you guys, the most current announcements, what's going on, what's happening with the IRS, generally what's happening in public, what is happening with this COVID thing. So today we are going to be talking about IRS changes. We're going to be talking about business owners, payroll tax relief, what to do if you have to lay off your staff. What does that really mean? So I have been bombarded today, all good, but bombarded with questions. So a lot of the things that we're going to be going over today are live questions, live Q&A from actual clients. And I wanted to, since I'm getting the same questions, I want to make sure that everybody is on the same page, doing the same thing. So I just started the live feed here at 1 o'clock. So I'm going to start just chatting. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Excuse me, guys. Sorry, can you tell I've been talking all day? Please, if you have any questions or anything that you'd like me to cover, please make sure that you throw them in the comment section. That'll really help me a ton if I can answer live Q&A for you guys. If there's anything in particular that you want me to cover, throw it into the comment section. So I'm just going to start at the top. We're going to start with business owners because that is most of the people that work with Tax Goddess. Let's give you a perfect example. Shauna, I have to close my doors. I'm, by government regulation, no longer allowed to have people at my facility, at my location. I have lost all my sales. I have no more income. So these are major concerns when we're talking about a business owner, because of course, if you have no income, how do you pay staff? How do you pay your own bills? How do you take care of anything else that is coming down the pipeline? So let's start with talking about HR regulations and talking about staff. Okay, so step one. If your business all of a sudden is no longer making any money, all right, as a business owner, it is important for you as the business owner, just like everyone else, to take care of your own family. If that means that you have to lay people off or furlough them, meaning, we're not laying you off, we don't want to let you go, we want you to come back and work for us, but we really just can't afford to pay you right now, right? With a lot of businesses, I'll pick on the gym industry. The doors have been shut and people are canceling their memberships and not signing up for new memberships. Typically spring is when the gym industry explodes and you get a ton of new clients. Well, obviously, that's not going to happen right now. So a lot of people have gone in the businesses themselves. The businesses that are still open are doing massive media pushes to ensure that clients coming into a store, into a location, know that the facility is clean. They're showing pictures of people wiping down stuff. But that only goes so far. So we're now losing sales, losing memberships, that kind of thing. So, from the standpoint of you've now lost revenue, you don't have enough money to pay your bills as a company, okay? Or, of course, you've got not enough money to pay staff or for anything else for that matter, okay? And I'm sorry, we just got a question. Franchise count as a small business, as a business with less than 500 people? Yes, so the definition of a small business, according to the SBA, I believe, Small Business Administration, is any business with 1,000 employees or less is typically considered a small business. So not quite sure if that particular comment, if there's more questions about that, Jean Ann, thanks for the question. Please let us know. We'd be happy to try and give more detail on that. But so if you have a business and you're now at the point of laying off staff, okay, for many of us as business owners, our staff are our family, okay? It's very difficult to lay off staff or to furlough them or whatever it is you're going to do. But business is business. If you have no money, you can't afford to pay them. So a couple of things that I've seen so far, people, terminating employees, terminating staff, terminating contractors completely. Just that's it. Sorry, we're out of money. Second thing I've seen is, business owner might have a little bit of reserves and really want to help their employees. You might want to offer to give a bonus. $1,000 per staff member, and then that's it. That's all that we can afford. Or of course it's gone all the way up to, we're keeping our crews, we're just having them try to expand into other areas of business, anything that can be digital. That one I've only heard in one case. That business was specifically very well cash laden. So really it's all across the board as to what's happening. Now, when you're laying off staff, there are two things that you need to consider. Okay, one is the HR and legal ramifications. Now, this is an area where we don't really know a whole lot because this COVID hit the US so quickly that we don't really know a whole lot about this. So I would highly suggest that if you're looking at laying off staff or temporarily suspending staff, whatever that is, that you call your payroll company, if you have a payroll company you're working with, that you call if you have an HR attorney, maybe even your corporate attorney. Double check that there are no legal issues or laws or problems that you are going to incur the wrath of down the line, right, if this is not done properly. So especially the HR laws, okay? Now, really what I mean is that, you know, in 3 months, in 6 months, hopefully this is all over in 2 weeks, but I don't know about that. I don't know how I feel about that. You know, it's going to be a little bit, I think. And so when all of this comes down the line, are there going to be lawsuits? You know, I was wrongfully terminated. I didn't do anything. You know, I live in Arizona. Not every one of our clients does, but Arizona is a right-to-work state, which effectively means that the business owners here can terminate their staff with no cause at any point. And that's for employees. Contracts, you may have contract battles, right? If you have contractors, it depends on what their contract says. So you want to check with your HR and your legal team from those perspectives about letting people off, laying them off or temporarily suspending their contracts, that kind of thing. Now, from a tax perspective, the government has put out that it's part of the proposed bill specifically about the COVID, that they are trying to offer a payroll tax reduction or removal for a certain period of time to help the business owners stay in business, right? But we're not sure, as far as I know, as of right now, it's 1:07 p.m. in Arizona. As of right now, we're not sure whether that bill is done, passed. You know, they're still talking about it as far as I understand. The IRS, it has been mandated to do two things. One, and it's confirmed that the extension deadline, normally your personal and individual taxes are due April 15th. That has been extended to April 30th. We do recommend that you still try to file on time. The IRS has said, please try to still file on time, which would be April 15th. But that is what it is. So at the moment, they've moved it to April 30th. The second thing is that this morning, there was an announcement made that they will be allowing delayed payments for anyone that owes taxes. So if you owe $1 million as an individual or less, you have an extra 90 days to actually pay the taxes. If you are a business, a corporation, that would be a C corporation, and your total amount of taxes due is $10 million or less, you also have 90 days for that. So sorry to kind of jump around a little bit. Let me jump back over. And for anyone that's watching, please, if you guys have questions, please post the questions. I'd love to make this interactive as possible. I'd love to try to answer your questions for you. So going back to payroll, if you're having to lay people off. So like I said, the government has offered this potential payroll tax relief, which is about 15.3%, 7.65 on the company side and 7.65 on the individual side. But if you don't have enough money to keep the doors open, let alone to continue to pay your staff, payroll tax relief, it really isn't going to be very helpful. So you may be looking at completely removing payroll 100%, right? There's just not a whole lot of option there. So again, going back to the earlier commentary, you may be able to lay off your people, put them on furlough, whatever that is, whatever's necessary to be able to hopefully keep your business and you as the owner afloat. I mean, I'm not quite sure how else to phrase that, because of course, if you're not around in 3 months or 6 months when this whole thing finally, hopefully ends, nobody's getting their job back. So keeping the business owners, this is my opinion, keeping the business owners afloat so that when things start to come back, they can start bringing their employees back and start bringing the jobs back would be very, very good. At this point, and Debbie, I see your question, thank you. At this point, they are estimating 50% of the US jobs have already been cut off. That's it, 50% of the US jobs. So it does, of course, and we're going to be speaking a little later about the movement to digital and what can you do to take your business digital. For every industry that's different, of course. For someone like us, we have been 100% digital for 4 years, so this is nothing crazy or different for us here at Tax Goddess. But if you're a brick and mortar, like we'll go back to picking on the gyms, if you're a brick and mortar gym, this is very different, and it's not something that a lot of gyms were prepared for to work with, is to have digital classes and digital meetings and using Zoom to host classes, that kind of thing. So, all right, let's jump to a question. Debbie, thank you. When will payroll tax relief go into effect? At the moment, we still don't know. This is a proposed bill. So Tax Goddess, we are watching every single morning to see if the proposed bill has finally passed. But at this moment, we don't know when and if even that's going to go into effect. Typical politicking, and I'm not a politics person, but typical politicking, both sides are trying to sneak things into this COVID bill, and it's delaying the actual processing of getting funds to the American taxpayers, making sure that, things like the payroll tax relief goes into effect, that kind of thing. So now, this does bring up a really good point. If you are an owner of an S corporation, okay, or a C corporation, in both of those cases, you are required to take payroll, okay? So that's a that's a baseline kind of thing. Now, the way that the IRS looks at payroll for an owner, okay, is that they look at payroll taken through the entire year, but they only look at it at one point on December 31st. So what I can recommend in this time, since so many of us have lost revenue, we've lost cash flow, we've lost a lot of these things, I would suggest that you put a pause on any owner's salary. So S Corps and C Corps, put a pause on owner's salary, and if you need money, take what's called an owner's draw. Okay, the owner's draw does not have any payroll taxes on it. It does not have any FICA and Medicare taxes on it. Now, you're still going to pay tax, at the end of the year, assuming that your business has profit, right? You're still going to pay tax on those draws. But at least you won't be worried about FICA, Medicare, withholding taxes, all those other pieces that normally come out as a part of an owner's salary. So definitely something to pay attention to there. So thank you for the question, Debbie. If anyone else has questions, please ask. All right, so we talked about laying off staff. Again, recap, HR, legal, and then of course your payroll company. Now, your payroll company, okay, please don't turn them off unless you absolutely have to. I mean, if it's a difference between paying the payroll company to file the forms or your family eating, turn off the payroll company, of course. But even though you have no employees at this moment, there are still forms to file. There are 0 filing quarterlies. There are things that still have to be done as far as paperwork. So if you do, in fact, terminate your payroll service completely, so if you're using ADP or Paychex or whoever's running that payroll, you will be required to file those forms by hand yourself. So if you can afford to keep the payroll service, payroll is one of those things you just don't want to mess with. So if you can afford to keep the payroll service, I would, but I would basically terminate any owner's salary. Great, another question. How do unemployment benefits apply to self-employed people, 1099 people? Great question. In the various states. So we just filmed a video on this this morning. Yeah, of course, now I wish I had my documentation in front of me. But basically, in the various states, the federal government, let me back up. The federal government has pushed down to the state level, because unemployment is at the state level, okay, that each state is allowed to determine whether or not they want to provide unemployment benefits or not for people that are victims of COVID, okay, where they've lost their job, absolutely. If you've been terminated, then yes, you've lost your job, so you can get unemployment benefits. But also people that are just sick with COVID now potentially could qualify at the state level. So I would definitely take a look at one of our other videos. Let me see if I can get you that copy of that link. Now, side note, guys, we are posting videos to our YouTube channel almost every day at this point. So the comment that I just posted, that particular video, I talk about what to do if you can't pay your bills, which we're going to get into here, what to do if you're hungry, what if you don't have any food, okay, that's a great video on that, as well as, of course, the unemployment benefits that people can apply for. So thank you, Heather, great question there, and that video does have the link for the unemployment benefits page so that you can look at your own state and whether or not there's unemployment benefits that you may be able to qualify for. So thank you. Okay, next thing on deck is talking about shutting down your bills. Okay, now there has been a huge public push. Italy, they've already done this. A lot of the other European states that are now being seriously impacted by COVID have basically said that at a federal level for those other states or countries, at a federal level, no one has to pay back their mortgage. Okay. Or during this time period, right? It's not a full write-off of the mortgage. But at this point, the U.S. has not said that, has not done that. So what I would recommend, okay, if you are now out of cash, if you're not sure how you're going to pay your bills, start making phone calls today, right now. Call your mortgage company, call your auto loan company, call your credit cards, right? Inform them that you may or may not be able to pay your bills. What kind of options do you have? Okay, are there delays that each company is offering? Capital One has specifically said, call us and we'll walk you through the alternatives, right? What other options are there for you to be able to not pay this bill? I'm 90% sure that we're going to see some sort of push, some sort of information coming down from the government on these types of things, okay? But at the moment, there's been nothing, officially published to that front. So the reason why I tell people to cut their bills, right, don't pay what you don't have to, is that at this point, cash is king. Absolutely king. And cash is always king, right? Don't get me wrong. But at this point, if you need to feed your family versus paying your car payment, which one are you going to choose, right? It's all going to be about the family. So if you do not have an emergency fund, savings account, something where you can go and get cash on hand, and we're going to talk about cash on hand here in a bit, start calling your banks, start calling the mortgage companies, start calling whoever you need to call to attempt your best to conserve cash, right? Keep cash with the family. Very important. All right, so we already talked about the two things that have been approved by the IRS. I'll just bring them up again. The 4/15 individual deadline has been pushed to April 30th. The other thing is that if you owe less than $1 million as an individual, you will not have to pay that tax bill. The actual money does not due until 90 days after, as I understand it, after April 15th. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if it's 90 days after April 15th or 90 days after the extended deadline of April 30th. So I'm still a big believer. Listen, if you need an extension of time to file an extension of time to file, okay? But otherwise, sorry, you see the mailman just showed up? Otherwise, please make sure that you have filed your extension by April 15th. And I'm so sorry, guys. The downsides to the, can you see the security system? Anyway, hi. Sorry. So, yes, so please make sure that you filed an extension not later than April 15th. I understand they've given us till April 30th. 15 days for an extension really isn't going to make a major difference. And then, of course, if you owe, you now have this extra 90 days to pay, okay, which is basically unheard of. The government is trying to make sure that people have income, cash in their hands to be able to do what they need. Okay, so let's switch over to, oh, and thank you, Heather, yes, for the YouTube subscription. So if anybody wants to, like I said, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That will make sure you guys get the information as soon as I have it, all right? So next thing, cash in hand, all right? So this one's a little bit, you know, starting to get a little bit out there, but I bring it up for a very specific reason, okay? Last night, so I'm in Arizona. Last night, some of the banks here in Arizona sent out notices saying that the branches are closed, but the ATMs and the drive-through windows are still open. And then this morning, basically the other half of the banks in Arizona sent out the same notification. So my commentary here is that cash is always king, as we said earlier. I would highly recommend that you at least have some amount of physical, when I say cash, I don't mean in your bank account, I don't mean a debit card, I don't mean a credit card, I mean cold hard cash, actual green dollar backs in your hand, okay? Generally, they talk about a minimum of $10,000 in cash for emergencies, right? Typically, that is your emergency fund, right? Is that you should have $10,000 in cash for emergencies. At this point, I would recommend that you get cash, physical cash, in your hands, because we don't know if there's going to be a run on the banks. We don't know if the actual banking system is going to shut down. The market is swinging wildly. We really just don't know. And, you know, I've gotten some pushback on that, like, no, the banking system's not going to fail. Everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. You know, personally, I'd rather be safe than sorry. So if you have the ability to get cash, I would recommend that you go get cash sooner rather than later. Again, it's typically, emergency fund is $10,000 per person in your family. So I would recommend at least having some cash on hand. Okay. Again, for any of you new joining us, questions, I would love questions, love to make this a live Q&A. Okay, the next one, I've gotten a couple of phone calls today about 401k loans or wiping out the 401k completely, right? People that need cash, that need to go buy things or keep their business afloat, okay? Can I take out a 401k loan? What can I do? So the very first phone call you need to make is actually to your 401k provider, okay? Do you allow loans? Can I even take a loan at this point? How quickly can you get me the funds? There's a lot of pieces to taking a 401k loan. Now, the other thing that I've heard is people have a 401k already. They already have a loan on the 401k. And the question is, well, you know, I'm freaking out. The market's dropping. I need cash. I want to protect my family, you know, like kind of going into that panic mode. Should I just cash out everything, take my money out of the 401k? Excuse me, guys. Sorry. You can tell I'm getting a little passionate about this one. So, you know, this one is really hard for me to answer, okay? Because I can answer from the tax perspective, but not from the market perspective, okay? I'm not a financial advisor, all right? So first call, financial advisor, all right? Second call, if you decide that you want to take your money out, all right? And we're probably, by the way, doing a Facebook Live with some actual financial advisors coming up here soon. But if you decide, that's it, I don't care, I understand that the market is down, I understand that I've lost value, I understand all that, I want my money, of course, you can take your money out of your 401k. Again, you'd have to call your 401k provider. Now, you know, like I said, there's a lot of controversy around that. The biggest thing from the tax perspective is that typically there are two major issues with taking money out of a 401k. The first one is that there's a 10% penalty if you're using those funds for not an approved list of reasons, okay? And we're waiting. This is one of the things that should be in the proposed bill, but I'm sure the politicians are going to miss it. Does this qualify as a disaster, as a hardship, right? It probably should, but I don't know that anyone's actually thought about that yet. So, you know, will there or will there not be a 10% penalty on the money you just take out of your 401k completely? Loans, 401k loans do not have a 10% penalty. Okay, 401k loans also you do not pay income tax on the loan. Okay, if you take the money out, completely take the money out, there is a 10% penalty right now. And of course, you have to pay income tax on the money that you take out of a 401k, if it's a traditional 401k. If it's a Roth 401k, slightly different. If anyone has any questions, ask. Happy to answer. But yeah, so if you take the money out, you're getting a 10% penalty and you have to pay tax on those loans. Now, if you're a business owner and you have no other way to feed your family than to take money out of your 401k, eat, okay? I mean, take your money out. You do what you have to do to feed your family. But, you know, you need to understand the different consequences of that. And we're hoping, of course, that the government will waive the 10% penalty for anyone who's taking money out to try to deal with COVID, medical expenses, living because they lost their job, right, as a part of this whole COVID thing. But yeah, that has not been put in stone. We don't know the answer to that. Now, of course, if you're a business owner and you've lost a bunch of revenue and you're pulling out your 401k, I mean, really, you're probably going to end up paying the same tax that you normally do under normal circumstances, depending on how much money you're pulling out, right? So just remember that a 401k, money coming out of a traditional 401k, is taxable income under the current set of laws. That may change, all right? So, perfect. All right. With that being said, okay, one of the most important things, I'm a big fan of don't panic, prepare, okay? With that being said, we have created, and we use it with our other clients, something called the 13-week cash flow model, okay? Now, if your business has zero income, you know, I mean, that's it, right? Try to cut your bills, try to do what you can. But if your business has just had decreased income, and you can use the 13-week cash flow model for a business or for a personal, okay, for either side, individual or business. The 13-week cash flow model basically shows you four things, okay? The first one is, here's my current cash, okay? The next section is, here's how much income I'm expecting to make each week over the next 13 weeks. Then you have your expenses. So what expenses am I expecting to pay over the next 13 weeks? And then, of course, you've got 13 weeks out. Where do you expect your cash to be? Okay. And so the one reason why I love the 13-week cash flow model, especially in an environment like this, is people are panicking, right? People are seeing all the craziness going on and they're panicking and making financial decisions, which should be a logical thing. They're making financial decisions from panic, from emotion, rather than looking at it from real numbers. So back to, for example, how much cash should you have on hand? You know, the emergency fund rule of thumb for $10,000 per person is great. But if you had a 13-week cash flow model for your business, for your personal home, you would know exactly how much cash am I going to need. If this thing lasts for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, right? How much is that going to actually cost? So, you know, we will be posting the link to the 13-week cash flow sheet. It will be on the Tax Goddess website. As soon as it's ready and live, we will post it as a comment to this video. So make sure you're checking the comments on the video. You know, actually, let me see if it's live yet, and we'll see if we can post it right now. Does anyone have any questions while I'm pulling this up? Would love to answer any questions, anything that anyone has. Perfect. All right, so let's see. 13-week cash flow, perfect. I have a current link to it. So here is the 13-week cash flow document. I would highly suggest, and we do this, keep this on hand and actually run it every single week. Okay, now we've been doing this for years. We run this when it's not panic time, okay? Because we like to know 13 weeks is a long enough time for you to know, hey, I need to make a change. Hey, I need to edit my business. Hey, I need to do this, that, whatever. And you know, it gives you that future thought. It gives you that future understanding of what's happening. And I see we have a couple other comments. Hi, Grant. Hi, nice to see you. Nice to see you. And Braden, most Americans don't have 10K. Great tip, have cash. Thoughts on opening and having lines of credit available? I think that's a great idea. I'd be really interested to hear, honestly, if any of the banks are even doing that right now. If you have the ability to get your hands on cash, the rates were just cut to 0 Zero, right? The federal bank rate was cut to 0%, 0% in an attempt to create stimulus for the country. Okay, so if you can get your hand on somebody else's money, I'm all over it. But same thing, cash, right? I don't mean sitting in a bank. I mean actual physical cash on hand. Okay, so thank you, Braden. Great question. Yeah, this is a whole nother time. I mean, guys, if you're already on the phone with your mortgage company, you might want to ask them if you can refinance to a much lower mortgage rate. It's time to ask. I don't know if anyone's actually going to be doing that, right? I think the whole country is kind of in this panic mode right now. But yeah, it's always good to ask. Can't do any harm to ask. Okay. So fantastic. Thank you, Braden. Great question there. So 13-week cash flow, I did just add that. The link is there, so feel free to download that, use that. If you have any questions, reach out to us on taxgoddess.com. We'd be happy to try and work you through that. I've tried to make it as simple as possible, so it's not tax CPA kind of language. Okay, simple as possible. Okay, we talked about the payroll tax holiday. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's how we're going to keep updates going on. Now, two last things I want to cover, okay? One of them is just a general kind of thing. Not a lot of people have thought about their medicines, okay? I'm hearing this a lot, specifically for our individuals. If you are on medicine, okay, so something you take every day to control a condition, something like that, the government has given special dispensation to the medicine providers to allow people to buy up to 2 times their normal amount of medicines. So if let's say you're on blood pressure pills and you normally get a 3-month package, you can now purchase a 6-month package. So for any of you that have not looked in your medicine cabinet and double-checked what your medicine levels are, I would highly suggest calling your pharmacy, see if you can get an extended amount of medicine. It's one of those things you just kind of want to have in the cabinet, just in case this thing does continue for a while, okay? The other thing is going digital. So this is more a conversation for our business owners out there. Not everyone is digital, right? Earlier in this conversation, we talked about gym owners, mostly all brick and mortar, if any, barely had digital classes, digital courses. So there are a few tips and tricks that I want to give you guys. All right, one of my personal favorite digital meeting platforms is Zoom. I actually thought it was quite funny. About a week ago, someone had posted, I think on Twitter, saying, you know, hey, we should probably all send cupcakes to the Zoom onboarding team because they're going to get inundated with requests for, you know, setting up new accounts. So I have seen Zoom used in some really amazing ways. So take, for example, we'll go back to the gyms, having the instructor in their homes, having the people who want the class at their homes, and they join a Zoom call, okay? You can still work out without the gym itself. You can have weights, you can do cardio, you can do all sorts of things on a video meeting. So thinking about, if you're a brick and mortar, what ways can you change the ways that you interact with your customers, with your clients, so that you can handle it more from a digital side without them having to come in? You know, we work with a lot of other CPA firms and help them go digital. Many CPA firms are still, you know, you mail in the documents and they take them and they photocopy them, and right? Well, you can't do that right now. You could mail in your documents, but there's nobody in the offices to make photocopies or do whatever. So one of our other favorite pieces of mini software is an app called Scannable. So it's Scan Able. That one is for iPhone and iPad, but it allows you to take a picture of a document and that converts it to a PDF. Can even be an OCR recognizable PDF. So there are ways to move documents if you don't have a scanner, for example, or a fax machine. Way back when, I feel like I'm dating myself by saying a fax machine, but still exists in the world. So yeah, there are many different ways to work on taking your business digital. If that's something that you you need help with, okay, like I said, we've been doing this for a few years now, helping other companies go digital. You are welcome to check us out on taxgoddessinternational.com. We would be happy to, at this point, give you some tips and tricks. If you want to ask us questions, we do have a Facebook group specifically for Tax Goddess International. That we will help if we can answer questions. We will do our best to try and help spread the knowledge on how to take your business digital and what other ways can you work on that. Now, something else that just was triggered in my mind, real estate owners, landlords. There has been, depending on the state, there have been restrictions from evicting people from, your tenants from your building. I'm still yet to see how they expect that that's going to work out because, of course, if people aren't paying their mortgage, is the likelihood they're not going to pay their rent? What's going to happen to the landlord, right? So there's still, unfortunately, quite a bit of stuff up in the air. But again, as we hear it, we will let you guys know. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's where we're going to be posting all of the updates. And of course, when we film a video, we do push it out across Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all those other places as well. So I think 35 minutes of talking about the COVID is probably enough. If I'm going to hang out for a few more minutes, if anyone has any questions, please throw the questions down into the comment section. Love to get those answered for you, anything that I know. So in the meantime, I am going to pull up the newest news here and see if anything else has come up in the past hour that we're speaking. This is something, by the way, something that we do every day. Tax Goddess pulls up the most recent, absolute most recent news to try to bring that information to you. And apparently, I'm checking the news, speaking of, and this is why I prefer to get the news from IRS.gov itself. I'm seeing one article that's saying April 15th is now the payment deadline. Okay, the IRS to delay the April tax 15th payment deadline by 90 days. That was posted 23 minutes ago. So earlier in this conversation, we were talking about, do you still have to pay? Is it 90 days from April 15th or 90 days from April 30th? It does appear to be April 15th plus 90 days. And we've got, apparently, the tax filing deadline will remain April 15th. I don't know, guys. Honestly, I don't really like getting my information from Google. So we will continue to watch the IRS website, which is the official website for the deadline. I would highly recommend that you do not wait until after April 15th to, at a minimum, file an extension to file your tax returns at a later time, so we can kind of wait and see what's going on with all of this. So again, file an extension not later than April 15th. Personally, I would recommend April 10th. We're big fans, especially in all of this mess. Send your extensions either e-file, digital, through your CPA or other tax preparer, or send them certified return receipt to the IRS. Normal processing times before all this mess happened at the IRS was about 2 to 3 months on any communication and correspondence. With this mess and with effectively, I'm sure, if 50% of the jobs have already been terminated, the IRS probably has the same thing. So let's go into the assumption that 50% of the IRS teams are also missing. We might be looking at correspondence out 6 months, 9 months, a year. Of course, nothing this major has ever hit the U.S. in many years. The last time we had any kind of delay with the IRS, it was a very small, localized kind of delay, and that added almost 60 days to IRS processing. So, again, make sure you file those extensions by April 15th. So, all right, guys, if you guys have more questions, if anyone is watching this video later, the main points are, don't panic, prepare, get your cash, make sure you've got your medicines. The IRS extension, double check irs.gov if there's any questions, because I'm seeing a lot of weird stuff back and forth on both sides on the media. And then if you need cash, if you need money, check getting some lines of credit, get cash out of your bank, and I mean cash in hand, not debit cards, not credit cards. So, all right, guys, as more news comes up, we will post it to the YouTube channel. So hope everyone otherwise is safe and healthy, and yeah, if there's anything we can do, reach out to us at taxgoddess.com. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.